mga atoll na tinayuan ng Chinese ng kanilang mga base sa kanila na yun, effectively.
Oh, kaso the problem there is it's merely low tide elevation. So it's not subject of appropriation. So even if they made some artificial islands there, they cannot actually say that we can occupy it. They cannot actually have any entitlement to it.
Sorry,
under
why
the
not?
UNCLOS.
Why not? They built it.
Kasi the theory there is under the UNCLOS on its own naturally. Okay.
Oh,
so
okay.
Mischief Reef, 'di ba? In fact, there's a airport there right now.
Yes.
But under the UNCLOS, it's merely a low tide elevation. So they cannot appropriate it.
And we can't also
We can
appropriate
also,
anything.
yes, correct.
So it doesn't matter for us to,
So
have
actually,
a territorial dispute over it.
the consequence there, whether or not we occupy it, that's not the question. The fact that these are within our exclusive economic zone means to say we have exclusive sovereign rights over those shoals.
What is allowed over our EEZ? I believe innocent passage is one
Right
of
of
them.
innocent passage, yes. In fact, even in the territorial sea, a right of innocent passage is even allowed. Oo. Pero that means to say that there is no, it's really innocent. So it's not a violation of the sovereign rights.
But first, I think we have to define exactly what constitutes innocent passage. I mean, to our minds, it's self-explanatory. But legally, what is the definition of innocent passage?
Well, if you really just look at the terms, innocent passage, meaning to say any passage there is not detrimental to the coastal state. Meaning to say there's no collection of resources, there's no collection of intelligence, there's no positioning of some offensive weapons. So it should really be innocent.
But
it will not adversely affect the coastal state.
These new ones that were spotted in Whitsun Reef and Julian Felipe Reef, they were unmanned. Does it not constitute as innocent?
No, it's not innocent passage because in the first place,
They're not passing,
they're not
mooring.
passing, they're mooring. In fact, they're already affecting our own freedom of navigation in our own EEZ. So it's
Kahit
not,
na
definitely
unmanned.
it's not innocent passage.
I believe this is not new. Seeing more than 100 ships in the Spratly Islands. Back in 2021, spokesman Harry Roque said that there were over 200 ships swarming that area. And ang sinasabi niya nung panahon na yon, ng 2021, the Philippines was never in possession of Julian Felipe Reef. So, is that true?
Well, to be frank, I don't have the exact details on the Julian Felipe Reef. Kasi if you look at the arbitral award, actually it tries to classify the different types of shoals there and rocks. So essentially, we just have to go back to the arbitral award. How was it characterized, these different maritime
Ang sabi
features?
kasi niya, the Julian Felipe Reef is outside the EEZ, but claimed by the Philippines through a Marcos-era presidential decree.
Okay. So, ganito lang ang magiging legal theory na. Let's just look at the principles, whatever is the maritime feature. If it's an island, it's capable of habitation, it's capable of economic life, then it can actually be appropriated. So the only question there is there actually effective occupation by the Philippines? Meaning to say, we have a flag planted there, we have a camp there, we have lighthouses there. So that's the big issue. So, but if it's merely a rock, it's merely a low tide elevation, then it cannot be appropriated.
Is that the reason why I was looking at the Spratly Islands? Tapos iba-iba yung kulay niya. Meron some occupied by Vietnam, meron iba
Yes.
by China, may
Yes.
iba by the
Taiwan.
Philippines. Kahit magkakatabi. Kasi may effective occupation.
Yes. Pero let's be very specific. Baka ito yung mga islands na hindi siya subject ng arbitral award. Maybe these are the islands that are really not in dispute in terms of its maritime entitlements. So kung hindi siya covered ng arbitral award, then we cannot invoke the arbitral award. We have to look at general international law. At kung occupied siya, meaning to say, hindi siya change, it wasn't changed, these are not artificial islands. So the issue there is not under the UNCLOS. It's under general international law. And general international law is, if it's island capable of appropriation, do they have effective occupation?
But the problem remains that China does not recognize that arbitral award.
Well, it should not be an issue. Because in fact, they have a obligation under UNCLOS. In fact, when they entered into the UNCLOS, when they became a state party, they agreed also with the dispute resolution mechanism. Because it's useless eh. You have a treaty obligation and yet you don't adhere to any dispute resolution. So mayroong Annex 7 doon. And in fact, in Annex 7, they actually recognize the compulsory jurisdiction of the arbitral body that essentially decided it.
Ito, nung
And yet
20,
to this day, we're still contesting that.
Noong 2021, ang sinabi pa rin ng China as the reason for the 200 ships that were swarming in the area of Julian Felipe, sabi nila, the fishing boats were just sheltering from bad weather. Is that-
That's not true. Kasi in fact, we know the season. Okay? Kung when are there typhoons. And it should be somewhere from June to maybe November. So if it happened beyond that, there's no typhoon. Secondly, if they're really hiding because of inclement weather, then if the inclement weather ceases, then they should not have any more right under international law.
Okay.
A separate code of conduct with other ASEAN members, do you think that will work?
Well, that will work. But I think the basis really of any code of conduct should be the UNCLOS. Number 2 should be the arbitral award. Because in fact, when we won that July 12, 2016 arbitral award, essentially we won it also for Southeast Asia. Because in fact, it invalidates the 9-dash line claim of China. So China cannot use historic rights under the 9-dash line because it's outside of their treaty obligation.
And what do you think, what else can we do? Can the Philippine government do to strengthen its claim over the islands in the West Philippine Sea, specifically that region where we saw the swarming of Chinese boats?
In fact, we have a very specific, we have a very specific act that we want to recommend. In fact, I recommend this together with Atty. Bagares and Dr. Melissa Loa. It's for the President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. to issue a proclamation. What's the proclamation about? It will actually try to enumerate our maritime entitlements under the arbitral award, because this will really show that even in our domestic sphere, we're actually implementing and executing the arbitral award. So I think that's one of the first steps, a proclamation from President Marcos Jr.